Well, and it was that moment when we looked back and we were like, oh, that's why God gave Erin peace to end the marriage. Not because he wanted us to be apart, but because he wanted us to be in something new and something different.
Do you find yourself wondering if this is all marriage has to offer? Are you so busy and exhausted at the end of the day that your marriage is the last thing you have energy to think about?
If you're wondering if God has more for your marriage, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Living Marriages Podcast. My name is Erin, pastor and marriage coach.
And I'm April, spiritual director and marriage coach. Join us as we explore simple habits for building intimacy with your spouse while learning what it means to center your marriage on Christ.
Well, welcome back to part 2 of April and my conversation with our good friends JB and Erin Crocker. In the last episode, you heard the story of really how God laid their marriage to rest. On March 10th, 2024, it was done. And it was a bit of a, well, it wasn't just a bit of a journey, it was a real journey as JB came to a place of realization of brokenness and of revelation, really, of what God needed of him, what Erin needed of him. And so we're going to pick up the story again now after March 10th, after you, JB, connected with your friend and he shared his story with you. You had new insight, new revelation, and according to Erin, new action. Like this was a complete, you were starting to change, this journey of transformation. Can you talk a little bit about where that journey took you in the next weeks and months ahead?
Yeah, so I really spent a lot of time connecting again with my friend, and he, every time I would say something that seemed to be crossing like a line, that would seem to be like going back to old JB, he would call me out on it. And
JB, you're an idiot.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I should have read through my journal. So I started journaling, which I hate doing, but I started journaling because I'm like, there's too many important things that are happening quickly. And yeah, so my friend told me, guys are idiots. And so, JB, you're an idiot. And so whenever I would start to sound like an idiot, he would call me out. JB, you're being an idiot. And like I said, guys, you need somebody in your life who's going to be honest with you, because you don't always see when you're being an idiot. And you need that person to show up and help you get out of that place.
And you don't listen to your wives.
Guys are really bad at that, aren't they? So both of us are Christians. So I started getting on we have an elliptical trainer. I started getting on the elliptical trainer, and I started reading through the Bible when I was on the elliptical. I would have my headphones on, and I had the Bible read out loud to me, and I would read it as I'm on the elliptical. And going through that, I had these moments where I could see how Israel's actions were so much like my own actions, and I could just relate so many. So there were so many times where I would be going through that and just being like, "Oh, okay, I'm being just like Israel right now." And I got involved in therapy with Katie, who was actually on your show, and she really helped a lot with me seeing some of the baggage that I was carrying around with me. And we did this exercise where she's like, "Okay, I want you to like take all of the, your feelings of responsibility, all the things that they're weighing you down, and I want you to hand that over to Jesus." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "How's that feel?" I was like I want to take it back. She's like, "Okay, take it back." And I was like, "Okay." And it was like, in my head, it was like this hiking backpack that's just like full, like so heavy. And I put it back on, and she's like, "How's that feel?" I'm like, "Feels really heavy. It feels really bad." She's like, "We'll take it off and give it back to Jesus." I'm like, "Okay." Well, how's that feel? Free. It feels so light. It feels great. Okay. But I want to take it back. Why do you want to take it back? I have a hard time letting go of control. Like I want to be in control of this thing. And so I'm learning to, I have to trust other people, because if I don't trust other people, then I don't really have a relationship with them. And that includes God. Like if I can't trust God to take that load and to, give over my worries, my desires, my fears, my concerns, if I can't give those things over to him, if I have to be in control of them, then we don't really have a relationship. And it's the same thing with my wife. If I can't be honest with her, if I can't be vulnerable with her, if I can't share the things that aren't working, then we don't have a healthy relationship. And I mean, man, there's just so many things that happened in that time, but really what it boiled down to is I started doing the work that I needed to do on me, not for us. I had to do it for me, because there was every chance that this wasn't going to work out. And so it was pointless to do the work if I wasn't going to hold on to it for the rest of my life and keep pursuing that. It had to be for me. So part of that work was also learning to let go of control, but also to start serving. Because a lot of things around the house had been on Erin's shoulders. I would work, I would come home, be exhausted, and sit on the couch and watch TV. If she asked me to help with something, okay. I would do it, but she had to know I wasn't happy that I was doing it. And that had to stop. So I started doing the dishes every night. It was just something small, something simple. It kind of messed up some of our kids' chores a little bit, but I just needed to do it. I needed to just show up and serve in a way that was helpful. And when the kids do the dishes, now they're like 17 is our youngest, so they should be able to do the dishes in a very competent, and the end result should be it looks nice in the kitchen. Somehow that doesn't always happen. And so another thing that I learned was that I needed to become an expert in my spouse. And when I started paying attention to the things that stressed her out and the things that really brought a sense of not being comfortable in her own home, the number one thing that kept coming up was the state of the kitchen. She could not relax and be at home if the kitchen was a mess. So I was like, I can do that. And so I started cleaning wiping down the counters every night, wiping down the stove, washing all the pots and pans, loading the dishwasher, running the dishwasher, and then rinsing down the sink, making sure it was clean the way that she would like it to be clean, not clean the way that I would like it to be clean. That was just me showing up and trying to give her a place that was comfortable and that she could, be relaxed at the end of the day. And so I started paying attention to those kinds of little things that I could do. Another friend told me, it might have been the same friend. I can't remember who told me what anymore, but let the work speak for itself. So don't do the work and then be like, hey, look at me. I did the work. Aren't I awesome? Love me now. Because then you're not really doing it for the other person. You're doing it for that gratification, that glory that you're seeking out. And so I just showed up. I did the work. I tried to let the work speak for itself. Sometimes I failed at that. And then I would have to apologize, which was something that I had to learn to do as well. I had to learn to apologize. Because
I just need to jump in here. Because one of the things that was so impactful in this time was the fact that he apologized. Because I heard it so rarely.
Wow.
In our marriage up to that point. In the first marriage, in marriage 1.0, I heard, I'm sorry, like a true heartfelt apology without telling me what I had done wrong to deserve it. Every single time it happened, I was like, huh? Every time. Yeah. So that's what apologies meant.
So I had to learn how to do that in a way that was real, authentic, that it wasn't just, I mean, half the time I was only apologizing because she had actually apologized. I'd gotten her to apologize first, and then I felt like I could say...
That was in 1.0.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I only felt like I could say sorry if somebody else apologized first to me. And I realized, too, that I was gaslighting her a lot by making her feel like she was responsible for the way she was feeling and that I wasn't. And it wasn't like I was trying to convince her that the gaslight was on when it wasn't, but I was not letting her feel her authentic feelings. I wanted her to feel the way that I wanted her to feel. And that's enough of a version of gaslighting that that had to stop as well. So I stopped making excuses. When she told me that something was bothering her or was not the way that she liked it, instead of making excuses and trying to make her feel like she was the problem and it wasn't me, I just said, I'll try and do better, and actually tried to do better.
JB, just because I had the privilege of journeying with you through this, I'll bear witness to the fact that we saw JB 2.0 as well emerging through this time, and work of transformation was happening. Erin, you were also on your own journey during this time. Your work didn't stop. You saw changes happening over here, but can you talk about what it felt like for you and what your journey consisted of as JB was on his journey?
It was so different from his.
Okay.
It was just so different because I had had so many of the moments of realizing what my baggage was causing me to do and then working to fix that. I had already done so much of that work over a much longer period of time. Much more reasonable period of time. Like the JB transformation, it was almost instantaneous. He became a different person. He was a totally different person while still being him, is the best way I can describe it. And it's what the kids and I would say. This is a different person, but it's still him, but he's a different person. What I had to do in that time was heal. So I had to learn to listen to myself, to trust myself. I had to give myself space. So one of the things I did, I am a huge introvert. One of the things I did was I turned our master bedroom into my safe space. So JB wasn't allowed to come in without permission. And I could go there and just be alone. And it was very restorative for me. We eventually started doing some couples counseling with Katie, but he realized this. But I also was like, I can't do couples counseling with you until you've done some work on you first. And so then we did some couples counseling. What did I have to do? I had to try to deal with my concerns of feeling like he and Katie would be ganging up on me. Because that's what had happened before. Right? And so there were a lot of pieces of that. That's what I had to work on a lot.
I know another part of your story in terms of marriage 2.0 was going from being in those separate spaces and also not really touching each other at all. Not having any kind of physical contact with one another, intimate or otherwise. And I know that has been a bit of a journey as well. And so I know for you, that was you said, no, I'm not ready for this. And you, JB, had to wait, as far as I understand, until you said, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, really weird. And so much of it is I didn't know what to expect. There is no guidebook for what we have just done over this last year and a half. There is no, like, this is what you do, and then you do this thing, and then you do this thing. You really have to trust yourself, trust God first. Yeah, let's trust God first. Listen, trust yourself, and then what we've been doing so much more is just talking. Talking about the things that are awkward and they don't feel comfortable. But we want to go forward the way we want to go forward, right? So we're not going back to the old ways of not being willing to be honest. We're not going back to the old ways of, I guess, in terms of the touch part, a lot of those pieces can become so routine.
Or obligatory.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened is I also go to bed way earlier than JB. And when it was time for me to go to bed, I had to give him his hug. And often I wanted the hug, but that became the only hug of the day. And it had to happen regardless of how we were feeling at the moment. I had to wait for him to be ready for the hug. If I didn't do that the right way, he was upset. And my empathetic nature could feel it. So maybe he didn't say something, but I always knew. After I ended that first marriage, I just couldn't handle being touched. And after that first week, he started to understand it. And he let me set the pace. And that was, honestly, it was fantastic. It is what I needed. It was part of that healing, because I would get to a point where it's like, I'm ready to hold your hand again. I would like hugs. Now, let's start sharing a bed again. You don't have to sleep in the basement anymore.
That was big.
Yeah.
But no contact in bed. So, like, we would sleep together, but no, like, we were on, she was on her side, I was on my side, and there was a line that I wasn't allowed to cross.
It's a king size bed, and honestly, I'm not a snuggler anyway. So that wasn't super weird. But yes, I did need that boundary. Like, yeah. I wasn't ready for that yet. It was like, I want you here, but I need to know it won't go further than I'm comfortable with yet. And so it's been that, step by step.
When there was a saying that I kept bringing up with her, and that is, if it's not okay for both of us, it's not okay for either of us. A lot of times we get this idea that we're entitled to things, but that's just not true.
Yeah.
And we can't lose respect and for each other just because we're married, especially because we're married. We shouldn't lose respect for each other. So if somebody's not in a place to do something, it's not right for either of us.
Erin, as you were sharing about the steps that you have taken, you had a smile on your face. And I'm seeing that there's been joy in being able to accept those parts of your relationship again. And that, just tell us about that.
This has been the most exciting year. Because even when all I could do was hold his hand, our relationship was the most vibrant it had ever been. I don't often get super teary, so JB's been the crier lately. Which has also been weird. But that's honestly, this is when we had this epiphany moment. And remember this, we were on the stairs. I think I was going up to bed. And so we were chatting on my way up and said something about, oh, this is so good. This is so right. It's not like this thing before or how we would have done this before. And like just popped out without thinking about this ever before. I ended that marriage. And that was when it really hit us that what we were building was something new. It would still have some, of course, it would still have some of the baggage, but it was new. We got to make what we really wanted for going forward. Yeah. And it was beautiful, and it's been beautiful. And yeah, it's just fully redeemed. Wow. It's just really great.
Wow.
Well, and it was that moment when we looked back and we were like, oh, that's why God gave Erin peace to end the marriage. Mm-hmm. Not because he wanted us to be apart, but because he wanted us to be in something new and something different.
Yeah.
And I could not use the word divorce that day. I couldn't use that word.
So that's when we could look back and we could see why God had, and God needed to bring me to a place where I could actually hear and see what was going on. And it wasn't going to happen unless she had the peace to be able to say those words.
Right.
Now I know you guys are still on a journey, and a friend of ours that we interviewed recently said we're constantly being sanctified. And I know talking to you guys, like, and us too, right? We're always learning things about each other, and this new marriage that you're building is going to continue to grow. Would you share with our listeners out there that might feel hopeless in their marriage, that might be in the place that you guys were when marriage 1.0 ended? What hope is there, and how can they find that hope?
It's not a cookie cutter. It's like there's no specific recipe for any of this. But be patient. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your partner. Be patient with God. And listen. Wait and listen. And find your people you can cry to. God brought the owls, brought you, April and Erin, to us. The number of walks April and I went on after I got to this place where it was just that one thing too many. And I broke. Those walks, and having a person with the same faith as me, who believed the same things about marriage as me, and who also could see that maybe God wanted it to end. That might actually be it. Because that's not something that we've typically been given permission to even think without tremendous guilt and shame. Not saying it's the thing to do all the time, right? But because I was able to get to that point where I had peace to say, I need to end this marriage. JB was in a place where he was broken enough that he could hear our friend. And God puts the pieces in place, maybe just by doing this podcast. There are people who know us, JB and me, and you can reach out to us at any time. If there's anything we can do to be with other couples who are hurting and are trying to figure out how to get past whatever block there is. Because that's what happened for us. God prepared people ahead of time to be there for us so that he could ultimately work this miracle. We were given a miracle. We 100% know that is what this was, what this is.
I would also say, too, that one of my biggest lessons through this whole process is that bad things grow in the darkness. And so the more isolated you are and the more you try to hide things from other people, the stronger those things get and the more control they take of your life. And so don't isolate, bring things to the light. And have people that you can share those things with. Because once you can bring them into the light and name what they are, they lose their power. And you can start to get free from them. It can be small things. It can be like just even concepts of God that we have in our own lives, like in our mind, that are just wrong. Lies that we tell ourselves about other people that just grow because we keep them to ourselves, and so then we start thinking the wrong things about people. Like there's so many different ways that this is a truth in our lives, but don't let things fester in the darkness because they just gain strength there and they lose their power in the light. So you need, like Erin said, you need people that you can be honest and vulnerable with, and your spouse can't be your everything. The other thing I would say is, for me, one of the biggest lessons has been to not scorekeep. Like, oh, well, I did this the last 2 times, so it's your turn to do it. Or like as simple as like, well, I cooked twice in a row. You could cook now. That just brings resentment, and it just brings, it's almost like this me versus her point of view, whereas we're actually a team. We're united, and it's us against the world. And so the more we have this infighting, the less strong we are as a team. And so to see her as my teammate, not my competition, and to say, what can I do to make this team stronger? What do I need to give up? What do I need to start doing to fill? Where's the need? Where can I fill that need? And not, well, what I'm not getting this, so it's not good. Like it has to be about the team has to be stronger. And so for those who are worried, I would also say, like if you are a part of a team that wants to make this work and is actually willing to work at it, that's where the hope is. But if you're a part of a team where one member is just dropping the ball, I don't know. It worked out for Erin, but it doesn't always. So I think we as a society also need to get better at understanding that things do end, and that there's a right time and a place to end things and not hold on to things for too long. So that's also a truth that people need to hear. And so if you feel like you're alone in your marriage, that's not a healthy marriage. And maybe it's just time. Especially if the other person isn't willing to show up. Right. And that's spoken from a person who wasn't showing up.
JB and Erin, I feel like we could have part 4, 5, 6, 7 in this conversation, and we will. We'll get you guys again, check in with you maybe a couple months down in the journey and see how version 2.0 is going, and maybe also hear the story, because you did, at the suggestion of Katie Skurja, who you saw as a counselor and who's been on our podcast before, you laid Marriage 1.0 to rest. You had a funeral service for it.
And it was amazing, and I definitely want to talk about that sometime.
So we'll have you back on the podcast to talk about that and to check in and see how you guys are growing and how God continues to build and encourage others through you as well. And so I want to encourage our listeners, hey, if you want to reach out to JB and Erin, you know how to do that, then get in touch with them. If you don't know how to do that and you still want to get in touch with them, get a hold of me on April 1st. info@livingmarriages.com. We'll get you connected. And JB and Erin, thanks again for being so vulnerable, sharing God's story of hope for your marriage, redemption, as you said, Erin, resurrection, new life. It's been an incredible journey to witness, to be a small part of, and thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you for the privilege of journeying with you today as we seek God's best for our marriages.
Before you go, if you've been blessed, challenged, or inspired by what you've heard today, please bless us by hitting the follow button, leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and sharing this podcast with family and friends.
You can also support this nonprofit podcast by making a charitable donation at our website, livingmarriages.com.
Until next time, praying the life, intimacy, and connection of God's love over you and your marriage.